Hey guys, Abel here, back with another video. In today's video, we will be talking about bulking. And one thing I was thinking about while getting ready for this video, I was trimming my beard. I was working on my George Michael beard cut. And as I was doing that, I could notice that my eyes are even more baggy than usual, which is not that surprising. I didn't sleep very much. And, it just made me think, what's the point of actually waking up in the morning if we just get tired by the end of the day and then we need to go sleep again? Like how inefficient this whole process is, right? So couldn't we just stay in bed in this semi-awake state, just go down to alpha or whatever you're doing when you're meditating and just do that all day? And then I had to realize that no, I guess that would not work very well. And this is actually a good example of something where seemingly evolution and the development of the human body could have been done better, right? Like this is not the most efficient way to do things. Wouldn't it be better if we could stay awake all the time? Maybe we wouldn't be as active. Maybe we wouldn't be as productive at any given period of time as we are now, but we wouldn't need to spend 8 hours a day or at least a couple of hours a day just lying around doing nothing. Actually, it's not only unproductive, but it's also dangerous. Like any kind of predator could come and eat us, or, we could be robbed these days. It's not the most efficient way of doing things, but yet that's how we need to do things to survive and to get by. And this is how it's always been. And that, I guess, is just a good lesson about the human body, biology, physiology, all of those things where maybe we have an idea of how things would be ideally or how it would make the most logical and intuitive sense, but yet in practice, for some reason, it just doesn't play out like that. And I think that might actually also apply to bulking. And that brings us to what I want to talk to you about today, and that is bulking is one of those things that I talked a lot about over the years. And to be honest, looking back, it's one of those topics that maybe I would have done better if I just kept my mouth shut, or at least I wouldn't have made certain statements a bit too confidently. Even if I was right about some things that I said about bulking and maybe now I am wrong, either way, we actually know shit about bulking. Maybe I'm saying this too much these days. Like I said that about muscle growth in general, we don't really know how muscles grow. Well, I would still say that we know a lot more about that. We know a lot more about the mechanistic nature of how muscles grow than we know about what the ideal bulking setup should be. But at any rate, I made several videos about bulking and I outlined my thoughts and what I would recommend to people. And to be honest, what I did there is pretty much what everybody does. It was partly regurgitation and partly just intuition, saying what my intuitions dictated. And to be honest, to a good extent, I will be doing the same thing today. A lot of it will be just my opinion, and a lot of that will be just conjecture. However, instead of relying on theory and relying on what I learned from other smart people, I will be relying a lot more on experience in this case, because I do have a lot more experience now, not so much with myself, but with clients, which to me is actually a lot more valuable. And so based on that, I think I can give you some valuable insights. So basically, what have I been saying so far? In short, the gist of my message was that getting fat during a bulk is not needed at all. You can get by perfectly well by putting on minimal amounts of body fat, and body weight gain, while it has to happen, it could be very, very slow. I was also showboating a little bit by presenting numbers to you and telling you the metabolizable energy content of lean body mass. And so, let's say 2,000 calories are needed to build a kilogram, sort of like 2 pounds of muscle. So if you break that down per month, then it would be a daily calorie surplus of like 30 calories or something like that. So why would you need hundreds of extra calories per day? And so basically, in short, I was a really big, very lean bulk advocate. Of course, I was not alone with this. Greg Doucette himself, Coach Greg, he is the champion of main gaining. Before that, a lot of other people like Eric Helms and Lane Norton, they were huge advocates of gaintaining, which I guess it might be very similar to main gaining. Is that possible? Which is basically the concept of airing very, very close to your maintenance intake and just slowly, very slowly over time, putting on muscle without basically any body fat. Of course, to a large extent, I was preaching to the choir with these messages because everybody loves to hear that you don't need to get fat and you can put on a lot of muscle. And I also enjoyed saying all of this. Many times when I made such videos, it was when I was lean myself and I was not very interested in getting fat again anytime soon. Sometimes I was cutting while I was making these videos. And when you're cutting, you always kind of come to a realization that, holy shit, I put on way too much fat and this cut is a massive pain in the butt because it's taking way too long. So yes, I very much felt like this message is coming from deep within and I could definitely resonate with every word that I was saying. In the meantime, apparently I must be stinking really badly because seems like I have my own fly. That was my message, and now let's talk about what my opinion is now and why it has come to change. Basically, my opinion at this moment is that bulking works, and dirtier bulks work better than leaner bulks. Recomping is possible, yes, but who recomping works for and for whom does it not work for? The message is pretty much what everybody has been saying all along, that for beginners and for people that are seriously overweight, it is possible. For leaner people, and basically the leaner you get, the less possible it is. The more experience you already have under your belt as a trainee, the less possible it is. And of course, you can mix and match these two factors. And what it basically comes down to at the end is that if you're at a relatively lean, athletic body composition and you're not a beginner, recomping might still happen, but even if it does, it's not going to be anything significant. It's you might be able to pick up some things with measurements, but it's not going to be the kind of thing that is producing visible changes on your physique. What do I think at this point is the ideal bulk? Well, again, nothing revolutionary, nothing really new, but just in case, I believe that you should be gaining probably 1 kilogram a month or more. If you're newer to lifting, probably you should be gaining a bit more. And I would say if you're interested in building muscle, no matter who you are, you should be gaining 1 kilogram at least a month. I would say even if you're smaller, and yes, I would say even if you're a woman that is smaller, and that is simply because of practicality. Yes, you can gain less weight, you can gain only 0.5 kilo a month. All of that is doable, all of that is amazing in theory. In practice, measuring anything less than 1 kilo a month is just very difficult. So I would say gain 1 kilo a month, do it until you get too fat for your liking, which I say with some big caveats, which I'm gonna get back to in a second. Then cut back down, rinse, repeat. And so back to the body fat point, I said, you bulk until you get too fat for your liking. Well, I say that if your liking still leaves room for getting a bit chubby, at least for a period of time. Because at this point, I'm getting more and more inclined to think that lean bulking is not only not super viable in the sense that if you're bulking like super, super slowly and you're basically barely in a surplus, probably many times you're not even actually in a surplus, then it's not going to work the best. I'm also inclined to think that just simply not gaining enough body fat could be a limiter by itself. So body fat might be not only just an unpleasant side effect of the bulking process, but it might actually be a necessity. It might actually be one of the important components of the whole thing. And so if you don't gain enough body fat relative to what's enough body fat for you, then the process is just not going to be as effective. Why is that the case? Well, now this part of it is a massive amount of conjecture, and I have to credit a client of mine who discussed this with me a lot. But basically the gist of it is that muscle growth is a highly inefficient process. I would say that as a man, building muscle is the closest thing you can experience to get some idea of how it could be like to get pregnant. Now, I know that that's massively disrespectful to the ladies that are watching this potentially. What I mean basically is that you're building something that's alive on your body in a way. As men, unless you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, you don't really have the opportunity to do that. But when you're building muscle, in a way, you're doing that, because muscle is a metabolically active tissue. It's energetically relatively expensive for your body to maintain it and to synthesize it, definitely. And your body is not super interested in doing that unless it has a good reason to do it, which of course means, training hard and giving your body the stimulus for muscle growth. But also, if it has the, not just the incentive, but also the comfort to do so. Probably it's not a very risky statement to make that feast and famine period. So being hungry, being underfed, not having enough body fat, and then having lots of body fat, lots of food coming in, these are very powerful signals to the body. These are things that we went through regularly throughout our evolution. And so when we are underfed, that's basically a signal for the body to do things to motivate us to go out, seek food. And a lot of the things that are not essential to survival are kind of put on hold. That's why we lose our libido. Women lose their periods. Getting pregnant is not as likely. Fertility goes down. Your body temperature goes down. You feel cold all the time. Your body is trying to save energy on everything that is not essential. The energy crisis and trying to save money on heating, which we might experience to some degree this winter. That is something that your body is already very good at and is doing it on a regular basis. So where does muscle growth rank amongst all the things that are essential for survival? Well, very, very low, right? It's pretty poor as an energy substrate. Like if your body wants to eat something in the absence of actual food that you can forage and then eat, body fat is great, muscle tissue, not so much. So why would your body pile on a bunch of it? Unless it really feels like it's in the right environment to do so. Now, what are the implications of that? Well, when you're bulking, lots of food is coming in, great. So what is the signal for your body? Cool, it's feasting time, so it's time to reproduce. And a lot of you probably have experienced this when you're going higher in body fat. In some cases, actually pretty high, like much higher than not only what would look the best, but even higher than what you might intuitively think is even the healthiest, that your libido goes up. I definitely experienced that myself. So far, I never managed to get so fat that I didn't still observe some libido improvements. And so this is partly a body fat consideration, but probably a lot of you have also experienced that when you're lean, maybe leaner than what feels the best for you, if you just have a really big, nice, tasty meal, soon after that, your libido spikes. All of a sudden, you feel like, okay, now could be the time. I had pretty low libido, but now I could be ready for something. Part of it is probably neurochemical and, hormonal. So serotonin is released in larger amounts when you're eating a lot of carbs, for example, as far as I know. But probably a lot of it has to do with other hormones that are released, which are more directly related to just calories, And then the body fat aspect, when you're eating a lot of food and when you're going up in body fat, probably you notice it. I definitely do a lot that my body temperature is higher in the middle of the night. I'm much more likely to wake up warm. I need to kick the covers off. It even happens when you have a big cheat meal or something like that. And in general, you observe a lot of things which kind of indicate that you're in great vigor. You're in a good state in general. Your body is thriving. I'm not saying that being lean is terrible for all aspects of your well-being and energy levels. There are some people that do really well in a lean state. But if you just logically think about it, if you're, let's say, successfully staying at 10% body fat, maybe 12% body fat, and it's fine. You're not starving all the time. Your libido is functioning. Maybe you're not the horniest ever, but it's there. You're not cold all the time, but maybe you're putting your hoodie on a little bit before the other people within your company. Basically, this is how I would describe where I'm at now. I'm lean, not super lean, not the leanest I've ever been, not even close, but I'm fairly lean, probably just under what would be ideal for me. My body is not starving, but with very subtle cues, it's letting me know that, hey, dude, you're slightly underfed, a little bit more body fat and food would be good. When you're feeling like that, when your body is sending you signals like that, it's probably basically letting you know that, okay, This is not the ideal state for anabolism in total. And that includes, impregnating a woman and also building muscle. It just makes very good logical sense to me. That would be my conjectured theory as far as why this is the case and why bulking seems to be necessary. It could be complete bullshit, of course. I could be completely wrong about it, but I would say it's not any more likely to be wrong just based on the sound of it than the alternative theories that are out there, which is that, well, this is how many calories are needed for muscle growth, and why would you bulk up if then you just need to cut to get rid of the fat? So that is just the theoretical part of all of this. What is the thing that actually tipped me over and made me change my stance? Well, the truth is, for one, it always bothered me a little bit that basically almost all of the great muscle building transformations I have seen ignore genetics, ignore the variability between people. Some people put on, of course, a lot more muscle. Some people have put on a lot less. But if I look at people I know in my personal life, if I look at people that I follow online who have built very impressive physiques, none of them have built it lean gaining or main gaining. All of them have done pretty big bulks. Some of them did stupidly huge, dirty bulks. Some of them just did pretty big, juicy bulks where they ended up at a fairly high body fat percentage, but nothing ridiculous. But all of them have done bulks. I really cannot think of even one exception to this rule. And I would say that applies to natural and non-natural trainees as well. But natural, I definitely have not seen anybody who has only done lean gains. Even I myself would not be an exception to this. Even though I would consider myself as someone who basically never done a really good and well-executed bulk. But for all intents and purposes, I still did. It's just that I didn't bulk. I was just, binging and having an eating disorder. And while binging, I was still training. So, I still did it, When I cut down, like every single time, I had 2 or 3 big muscle growth spurts in my life. All of those came when I got a bit fat, like all of them. And so that always bothered me a little bit. Now, the thing with these, of course, is that you can always find an alternative explanation, and you can always present what would have happened if this and that would have been the strategy. You can always come up with that. And since we don't know what would have happened, it's hard to argue with these. And that's pretty much what I did so far. So yes, Eric Helms, for example, did put on, let's say, like 5 pounds of muscle between his last competition and the one before that. So between 2011 to 2019, he put on like 5 pounds of muscle, whereas he seemed like he was already an advanced lifter in 2011. So, okay, bulking did work, right? Well, but the question is, was it the 7-year off season or was it the bulking? Steve Hall also put on, 10 pounds of muscle between his last competition and this. So, well, the last competition and the one before that. So 2017 and 2021, I believe. 10 pounds is pretty insane considering he already had a very good physique. Well, okay, but was it the bulking and was it all the weight gain and the force feeding, or was it the fact that before that he was keeping himself so lean that was excessive? Hard to tell. Plus, it was still like 4 years. So let's not ignore that either, right? So with case studies, you can only do so much. The ultimate thing that was the tipping point for me is that I was trying to make the idealized lean bulk work with my clients for a long time. In some cases, it worked. Although looking back, to be honest, even in those cases, those clients actually did very decent bulks. I would definitely not call those overly conservative bulks. I posted one picture on my Instagram, which was disabled. I'm going to post it here again. I was very, very proud of this guy because he completely was decided on the fact that he has shit genetics and he will never be able to build more muscle. And damn, he looked good after a bit of bulking. So, there was that. But the super optimized, ultra lean bulk with minuscule amounts of weight gain and basically no fat gain, it was very, very hard to pull off because, basically making that work, man, this fly really annoys me, seriously. Where is my cat when I really need her? God damn it. So it's really hard to pull these bulks off because you basically need to be as meticulous and disciplined as you would have to be during a cut. So obviously, finding people who both have the patience and the discipline to pull them off is not easy. But, when you're coaching for long enough, eventually you will come across at least a couple of people. And honestly, what I saw with them was a complete disaster as far as my reputation is concerned in their eyes, probably, because it failed miserably. And it was eye-opening, very educational, very beneficial from a learning perspective, not so beneficial from a being able to look them in the eye perspective, because I was getting out of things to say to them. Honestly, I could just not find any more explanation as to why are they not progressing in strength even. Like, they were plateaued on their lifts, whereas they were doing everything I told them. They were following my instructions very closely. They were diligent. And things were just not happening. They were so plateaued that I was running out of excuses, basically, for myself. I was running out of cop-out explanations. I didn't intend them as cop-outs, but before that, it was always the case that at least like a couple of main instruction points the clients didn't follow. So it was obvious that I was gonna blame the lack of progress on those things, rightfully so. But in these cases, what the hell? And these were also not some very obvious genetic heart gainers or anything like that, where, sometimes you can just look at the person and, of course, you're still optimistic, but sometimes you're like, ooh, man, let's see what we can do here, because he definitely seems like he's one of the heart gainer types. Like, these guys were not like that at all. Their only sin was following my advice, which was to stay as lean as they were, which was very lean in these cases, and be as disciplined with the very lean gaining process as I advised. And so it was just complete and utter failure. And that was the first moment where I seriously needed to look for answers. And the only answer I could go to at that point was that, God damn it, they need to gain more weight. They just need to eat more. Unfortunately, some of them have left me, understandably so. They looked for someone else because, I failed them. But luckily, some of them have stayed. And lo and behold, when they actually started eating, things actually started to pick up again. That was really the ultimate thing that tipped me over. And I became a bulking believer once again. So basically, conclusions so far, bulking works. So gaining a kilogram at least a month. Even if you're smaller, even if you're a woman, gain some amount that you can actually track and that is beyond the margin of error that you have even in food labels. Okay, so, one could make the argument that, okay, if I have a really amazing scale and I can make it work to, only gain half a kilo a month, can I do that? Well, sure, but if you gain half a kilo a month, then how much are you going to gain per week or per 2 weeks? Okay, so then every 2 weeks you're going to gain 200 grams. Man, that's the amount that you're sweating, like how much hair you're losing. Maybe not that, but how much stuff you're holding, not in your stomach, in your small intestine. Like, even there you're holding more than 200 grams. Like, it's just, it needs to be an amount that you can objectively track and where it's obvious and unambiguous that this is an actual outcome of the bulking process and not some random other fluctuation in your body. And also, don't try to stay super lean, okay? How lean it is, that's probably individual to a good extent. So for example, Steve Hall was feeling sick and he was just absolutely nauseous from all the food, and he was feeling like he's turning into a sick, diabetic, frail person. Whereas, what was he, like 16, like maybe 17% body fat, something like that. Like, he was still very lean. A lot of people start their bulks there and they can be proud of themselves if they can do it. He looked amazing, but he's just such a lean guy naturally that probably for him, that was the amount of body fat that he needed to reach to actually reap the maximal benefits of the bulk. And he could afford starting as lean as he did. So we are just different, Some people will feel ravenously hungry and very much like permanently dieted when they are as lean as Steve was when he was feeling nauseous from all the food. So this is probably individual, but what I can tell you is if you're having subtle cues from your body all the time that you're underfed, if you're constantly proud of yourself, basically that you can stay this lean, that's probably too lean. Not saying that you shouldn't go there. I'm not saying you shouldn't stay there if that's what you want. But if you want to be bulking successfully, you should probably be going over that body fat percentage relatively quickly. or don't rush it if you don't want to, but you know what I mean. It's just not the ideal state for building muscle. And probably you want to end, probably how high that is, it's also going to be individual. I wouldn't be comfortable saying any specific number. It's going to be, a case by case thing. If we take me, for example, basically the leaner I am, the better, but probably my aesthetics peak at around like the 9% body fat mark, possibly approaching 8. I definitely feel dieted kind of permanently at that point. So that's definitely not ideal. At the 10% mark, 10, 11, maybe approaching 12%, that's where I feel good, very livable, very maintainable, but definitely somewhat effortful. There is a chronic or permanent, but very small amount of effort that I need to apply. That's basically the cutoff point. That's the point where I would need to go over at least to be really in that ideal zone. And then, as I get fatter and fatter from there, I feel better and better up to a pretty high point. My well-being probably peaks at around the 20-ish% body fat mark, maybe up to like 22%, something like that. When I'm up at the 25% and higher body fat mark, I actually start to feel worse, and I can definitely tell that. I just feel worse pretty much in every regard. It just doesn't feel good. So I would say that that's the point that I should be probably flirting with at least a bit at the end of my bulk, but not go over that much, if at all, So that's me, and everybody has these sweet spots. You probably have to go by your cues that your body is giving you, your well-being, and other objective markers if you can. Is there going to be some unanimous agreement upon this, amongst experts? Not anytime soon. We don't know shit about bulking, and I really do mean that. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. Eric Helms and some other people, but I just remember his name off the top of my head, published a paper like maybe 2 years ago, which was about bulking. And basically it was a review paper investigating the question of how many extra calories are needed to build muscle, or is a calorie surplus even necessary for building muscle? And the answer was, well, we don't really know, but it seems like it is necessary. And there was a pretty big section which was about how many calories are needed for muscle growth. And it was a very interesting section. I would recommend you to check that out because it's very, very cool to read. But basically the end of that section, the conclusion was that, well, we don't really know. So kind of like safe, seemingly appropriately aggressive while being appropriately conservative as well, is about like 200-300 calories of surplus per day. That's what you should be eating. And, that's pretty much where we're at. And from anecdotes, we can only tell so much. What I can tell you is that there are a lot of people that are big main gainer advocates. And what you will observe is that the vast, vast majority of those are advanced lifters who have pretty much built up 90% of the muscle they're ever going to build up. They already have a great physique. They have done their big bulks in the past, which worked, by the way. And now they're just sick of the whole process, or I don't even want to speculate what they're thinking. The point is they are all advanced. This is the typical timeline of lifters, okay? They start out lifting, they do their first couple of big bulks. They put on quite a bit of body fat, maybe more than what's necessary, even accepting that, okay, bulking works, maybe even then it's a bit more, but the bulk works like magic. They put on a lot of muscle, their physique completely transforms. Then they do another bulk, still works great. And, a couple of years in, or maybe, 5 to 7 years in, at some point they do that one big bulk, which doesn't really result in anything super impressive. Maybe they can still observe some very small change, but it was no longer a physique transformation. And, they still felt like kind of grossed out by themselves at the end of the bulk. It was a big pain in the ass to cut down afterwards. And then when they see that this didn't really amount to anything significant, then they decide, okay, this just doesn't work anymore. And then that was the last bulk that they did. And then they start the main gaining thing. The end result of that is they always look pretty good and lean. They can post on social media regularly. The other outcome is that basically that's the point where they stop gaining muscle, and then they can just conclude, okay, I reached my natty potential, or Maybe some of them don't conclude that. For example, Mike Matthews, I don't think he ever actually concluded that. He just said it's just not worth it. Like, I look good, I'm happy with my physique, and I would rather stay lean and be able to do a photo shoot anytime I need to. And that's fine too. But oftentimes, big conclusions are made from their personal experience, but it's kind of a self-reinforcing loop. Now, am I saying that they would be gaining massive amounts of muscle if they still bulked? Probably not, but that would be, I think, the only way to really find out. And, just as a side note, I mean, we have too many case studies at this point. Like, it's hard to even count them. But look at Jeffrey Verity Schofield. He had a very, very, very good physique. He went on a very aggressive bulk. It worked so magically that, at this point, he's probably getting a bunch of steroid accusations. I don't believe for a second that that's the case, although it would be fucking hilarious if it was. But the bulk worked like magic, And he was not a beginner anymore. What the body is capable of when you actually feed it. Steve Hall, probably he was already considering himself to be an advanced lifter. He was competing and has done well before. Went on a long and not unaggressive bulk. He did some mini cuts interspersed, but he went on this big bulk, worked like magic. AJ Morris, I believe, he put on some very respectable amount of stage weight in a couple of years, and he was also eating quite a lot. So, lots and lots of anecdotes here. And so what would be my conclusion and advice? Well, for one, do whatever you feel like. I'm probably not going to follow my own advice. One more thing, actually. Of course, there is no guarantee. So that's the problem here. Like, I cannot sit here and tell you that if you do this, it's going to work amazingly well. I'm doing this with clients now. Part of me is, of course, afraid because if I just get them fat and then make them cut for a long time and they achieve jack shit, then I might as well shoot myself in the head. But I know the alternative, and I definitely have a lot more faith in this strategy than the alternative. The other thing is that a lot of people, so unfortunately, I have done big bulks, even a couple of years ago, which have not worked well. But I think the issue is that I think you can easily defeat the purpose of a successful bulk if then when, March and April rolls around, you freak out and then you crash diet all the way to, 10% body fat. Like, I do think, I don't know if there's something to, changing the set point of your body by holding onto the muscle. Maybe that's over-exaggerated. I think since we don't know, and if muscle growth is important to you, then I think you might as well try everything you can, like everything that seems reasonably like a good idea. But one thing is for sure is that if once you finish the bulk, you just deficit until you get to 10%, like very lean. I think you can undo a lot of the benefits of what that bulk achieved. So I really think if I wanted to give the absolute best chances for someone to put on muscle beyond what they believed was possible for them, I would make them bulk long. I would make them bulk like an obvious amount per month, like a kilo or more. And then I would actually make them hold that for a while. And then I would not return back to their absolute leanest stage. So in my case, if, let's say, I would flirt with 25% body fat, I would not go back to 10. Maybe I would go back to 17, maybe even higher, I think that probably there is value to spending more time at a higher body weight and also at a higher body fat percentage. So yes, that would be my most, fail-safe strategy. So if I was to be paid $1 billion for making someone put on as much muscle as possible, and then he will have a cloned twin who will be trained by someone else, then yes, that's what I would do. I think it just makes too much intuitive sense in a lot of ways. Not only the whole evolutionary bullshit that I presented, but when you're heavier, when you carry a bit more body fat, you can train more, you can push more weights, you tend to be more resistant to injury, your recovery is better in most cases. So there are just too many things that make sense here for me to not believe that this is probably what makes the most sense. Now, of course, in some ways, this is just a gigantic cop-out because who's going to do that? Who is going to be the person who is willing to stay fluffy throughout summer? I completely understand if you're not that person because probably I'm not that person either. I was joking to my wife the other day that I think this winter I'm gonna go up to 110 kilos. So we will go somewhere cold for summer holiday next year. Okay. But unfortunately, it was just a joke. It's not gonna happen. So I understand if you're in that boat, but just in case you're curious, that's what I believe would be the best strategy. Of course, there are all kinds of in-between ways as well. So it doesn't have to be an either or, that you either stay shredded or you gain all the weight. No, I mean, you can pick something in between. You can also just, bulk, but just not get as fat. So in my case, I could not go up to 25% body fat, only to 20, and then not return to 17. I could return to 12, of course. Like that works as well. Unless it doesn't, of course. If you're a hard gainer, if you're someone who was stuck for a long time, if you're really passionate about this, if you seem to be someone who is struggling to put on muscle, then, again, how important it is for you and how much do you want to make sure that you're maximizing your chances. For some people, it's worth to turn every stone over. So yeah, that's what I would say. So that was the SSD Abel Was Wrong series episode number 1. Next time, probably I will be covering another one. I collected like 4 videos that I specifically remember, and I just think I was wrong in those videos, or if not wrong, I just changed my opinion, and you might want to know what those videos are. So this was number 1. All those videos where I was super vocal about lean gaining. Yeah, I don't think that anymore. So that was that for today. If you're interested in coaching and consultations, please check out the link in the video description. Let me know what you thought. So leave a comment and like the video, please. And subscribe for more stuff like this. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Ciao.